test everything because like you never know, just putting a headline on an already performing ad might make it perform that much better. Do something very different because you never know what's going to catch on. And then once you run those through the test and see which one gets the most traction, then makes small variations to that.
A lot of people in this industry, they have their ROAS, their cost per lead, cost per call. What are the most important things that we're looking at every day?
Honestly, I think it starts with the...
Welcome back to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez. Today, I have the mastermind behind our multiple six-figure ad budget. We spend that every single month in ads. He's digital marketing genius. Ryan Mckeague, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, man? Good to be here.
Dude, I'm so happy to have you. And so it's funny because Aaron is a testament also to like starting at the bottom. So for those guys who don't know, he started off as a sales guy. Right?
I did.
And so you came in, you started in sales just because you wanted to be like in the ecosystem. And then, you know, just by talking about what you did and, you know, then you moved into obviously the marketing role now. So, but you had a background in marketing.
I did.
Right?
Yeah.
So tell me what, you know, now that you're running our ad account and, you know, like you said, we spend anywhere between like 100 to maybe like 300 on a big month on ads every single month. Like, what's been the biggest challenge that you're encountering with that kind of ad budget?
Yeah. So, I mean, digital marketing wise in my background, like I've managed up to like 50,000 prior to, you know, working with you guys. And now, like you said, yeah, we're managing, you know, up to multiple six figures a month. I'd say the biggest challenge is just like staying on top of the data. I mean, ads are like, a lot of people like to complicate it, I feel like, but it's really just listening to the data. Like once you have your rules and your things in place that you know that, hey, if it gets to this lead cost, I'm going to cut it. If it gets to, you know, this click-through rate, I'm going to cut it. It's not good. I feel like it's really mental at that point. Like you're just reading the data versus kind of like stock trading. Like I kind of like to think about it. Like if you have your rules, but you kind of like, there's this ad that we launched this other day. Like I thought it was going to do well, but it went against the rules. So I'm like, oh, I got to cut it versus like, you know, just
hoping that it's going to succeed.
Exactly. So I'd say just that, like it's a lot more data that we're dealing with now, spending that much money. And then just really like knowing what specific data points to look at to make the right decisions.
So a lot of people in this industry, they have their ROAS, their cost per lead, cost per call, cost per like, you could literally do cost per everything, right? So what are the most important things that we're looking at every day?
Click-through rate. Honestly, I think it starts with the click-through rate because your creative is going to be 80% of the results from your ads. I mean, there's a fun fact out there that the top 0.1% of advertisers test 11 times more creatives than like a normal advertiser. So just having fresh creatives and like paying attention to the click-through rate, like how many out of 1,000 people, how many people are actually clicking on this ad? That's super important. And then obviously, once they click to the landing page, you know, what's your conversion rate look like on that landing page? So if, you know, an ad gets a 2% click-through rate, that's pretty solid. And then we send 100 people from that ad to a landing page. How many of those 100 people are actually opting in and, you know, giving us their information?
So what's a good click-through rate?
1% is like the bare minimum, in my opinion. 3 to 5%, I mean, you have a winner right there. And then like 2% is pretty average. You have like an average performing creative, I'd say.
Okay, got it. And then when it comes to like the opt-in rate, so we got 2% on like a click-through, and then what is a really high quality like opt-in rate once you have the landing page?
10%.
10%?
I mean, depending on if you're selling or if they're opting in for free, right? So something like our WealthCon site where they're just opting in to see the prices, it's going to be a lot higher than like the low ticket funnels that we're building out.
Got it. So why are we rolling out these low ticket funnels?
Well, I mean, they're pretty new, but the whole idea behind it is to be self-liquidating. So we're putting, you know, $1,000 in to hopefully get $1,000 minimum out. And we have this list of leads / buyers that either are purchasing a low ticket product or they're purchasing something from us to get in the ecosystem. And for us, it's a higher quality lead because they're committed, they're bought in quite literally because they're giving us, whether it's $1 or $10, it's better than them paying absolutely nothing. But yeah, the whole goal of the low ticket funnel is for us to get these leads for, you know, pretty much free.
Got it. Yeah. So typically what I see and what we've done for the last like 2 years are we'll go paid ad to VSL, meaning video sales letter, then sales call, right? And what would happen, and what we've noticed, and the reason why, like you said, we're moving to this low ticket thing, is because those leads might not be ready to buy a $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 product, especially once you start moving to cold, which is a lot of what you do now, right? Like trying to get people into the ecosystem. And so that's why we've transitioned to, like you said, the low ticket thing, because number one, it gets a higher quality person, because, you know, no value gets transferred until there's a transaction. Right. So 100%. They transact with you, they give you their credit card, which, and then at that point, you know, our team is now following up and calling as a salesperson, say, hey, you know, did you get the thing? By the way, like, what exactly were you looking for? Why are you looking into wholesaling, or why do you want to build your business? Whatever that lead magnet is. So when it comes to like the low ticket stuff, what's like the price point threshold that you feel that you think is optimal?
I mean, personally, anywhere from like $5 to $30. And I think the main thing is less about the price, but more about what they're getting for the price. Like it always comes back to your offer in the beginning. Like your offer needs to be solid, whether you're obviously selling, you know, thousands of dollars of product, or, you know, even a low ticket product, but it has to be compelling enough that they want to give you your credit card number, and, you know, purchase that for you.
Got it. And so if I'm brand new and I'm like trying to think of like my offer, right? Like what would I put together? Let's say I'm a sales coach. Like what type of low ticket thing do you feel like would be valuable?
I mean, usually something digital is the easiest, just because it's easily replicable, as like you don't have to print anything out or ship anything out. I mean, just off the top of my head, for like a sales coach, I would do something like my top 5 closing lines or something like that, or my like top 3 scripts or something along those lines. And, you know, obviously I would expect this person to be kind of niche down, not just a general sales coach, but something like that. Maybe a script, maybe a closing line, maybe like, this is how I deal with my objections. Just a small little like bite-sized piece of like what they could get if they were to come on as a client or be a paying customer for you.
What's your opinion on free lead magnets versus paid?
I think it comes back to what you just said. Like, people don't, what was the value thing of the transaction?
Yeah, no value gets transferred until there's a transaction.
Yeah, no value gets transferred until there's a transaction. And there's a statistic out there that like, no matter what you're giving away for free, it's never going to be as valuable in the mind of the consumer unless there's a price tag next to it. People just don't value free stuff for whatever the reason is. And no matter, even like, I think there was like a test done or something. They literally tried to give away this free course that they used to sell for $10,000, and just like 80% of people wouldn't even go through it. Versus, you know, if you pay for it, you get a lot of people going through it because they're committed with their money. So personally, I try to stay away from free lead magnets, just because you get a lot of like people who aren't that serious, but it is a good way to get the volume up as far as like lead goes, but your quality definitely, you know, isn't going to be there.
100%. And, you know, us being in the course game, like we can see the people who go through our courses, and this is just a static nation, like across the board, where 90% of people don't finish the courses that they buy. But again, if you pay $30,000, you bet that you're going to be on those coaching calls and you're going to be there and committed. And so 100%, like the more money that you spend, the more committed you are going to be to whatever you end up doing. Right. Yeah. Like, so when people pay, like, you know, I know like right now I pay like $1,000 a month for a trainer, right? Like I'm going to show up and he's going to, and obviously I get a lot for that, but like it makes me a lot more committed than I was the last like 6 months where I was just working out on my own. Right. So, you know, pivoting a little bit, tell me about your experience joining as a salesperson with like, did you always have the hopes that you were just going to come in for marketing, or tell me about that? I definitely had a hope. I didn't think it would happen as fast as it did. I'm going to be honest. And, I mean, I had been following Ryan for years. So I, you know, had my own business before this, and he was a big inspiration, lived in town. So I was like, oh, cool. This guy's cool. He had cool hair. So I, you know, I followed him and just like, yeah, long story short, looking for an opportunity. You guys were hiring, and yeah, I came on as sales, and my main goal was just to kill it as sales. And like, I knew that like I'd heard from multiple people working here that like, if you do well and you perform, like you're going to get noticed and you're going to get rewarded for that. So that's kind of like was my goal, to put my head down, focus, and kind of just like outperform everybody, and hopefully get noticed in that way. And I think I was out golfing with Brian, and yeah,
he like started talking to me about my business and what I did prior. And yeah, I came across, you know, my skills in digital marketing. And like next week I was in your office and you were like, why didn't you tell me you had these skills? And the next week after that, I'm an ad buyer.
Yeah. We move quick. Yeah,
no, for sure. But honestly, it's something I hoped for, but I never knew it would happen this fast. And I'm glad it did. And I was super nervous at the beginning, and cause like I was confident, but like I had never done it, I guess. So it was just like, you know, time to like show up and actually show out. So yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's like brand new? They have some skills, but they want to come into an organization and then kind of do what you did and, you know, move up very, very quickly. Like, why do you think that happened?
I think it's relationship capital. I mean, I was intentional about trying to build a relationship with you, trying to build a relationship with Brian. Ryan was a little bit too high up and busy. So it was just like, I'm not really going to get much FaceTime with him. But I knew that if I could get you guys to notice me, that like, you know, things would happen. So that was, you know, being intentional about just building relationship capital with the higher ups. And then really just like performing. I mean, especially with sales, like, you are purely like judged on and based off of your performance. So something that Ryan told me when we first came in on the first day, it was like, if you have no skill, the only thing you can do is volume. And I like really, that just resonated so hard. So, I mean, day in and day out, I think our calls, like we had to do like 80 to 100 dials. I was consistently hitting 120 daily, just trying to like, cause I know that the volume was going to lead to my skill getting better. But I'd say just like, outperform where you're at and try to be always doing the next thing that you want to do. Like I was always like helping out with other reps as far as like showing them like what they need to in the CRM, and then trying to get in the marketing meetings, even though like I wasn't really supposed to be there. But no, just trying to like being intentional about like what you're doing with that. And one of my favorite quotes is like the only job you start from the top is a gravedigger. So like you gotta start from the bottom, right? And work your way up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing that you mentioned too is like just relationship capital. I think the reason why a lot of people don't move up in companies is number one, because like your higher ups don't know your skill set. And the fact that like, again, you went golfing, and golf is also like, that's how I got my job here was golfing with Ryan. Yeah. And we were just chatting. I had no intention of even getting a job, but you know, I think it's just making like, number one, developing the skill set, right? So you already had the ad buying skill set. And then coming in and doing more of what's asked of you, which you did. And then making the right connections with people in the business that now you can showcase your skill set when the time is right. And, you know, so I think that's super important, which I think you did a really good job of. So
thank you.
Hats off to you. And right now, what's like the hardest part of working here?
I'd say the hardest and most rewarding is like the changes. Like you said, we move fast. And I mean, I feel like on a weekly basis, we are doing something always different. It's not like a cookie cutter job. Like you don't just come in and do the same thing day in, week out. And like, we're always testing new stuff, launching new stuff, you know, different avenues, different offers. And that's like, I'd say it's the challenging part, just cause like the ads and like, oh, we have this new offer. We got to build out the funnels. We got to do ads for it. And we do it really fast, but it's always something new. And like I said, it's rewarding and challenging, just because I love that. I love doing something different every day. I think I asked you, like when I first started working here, like, what do you like about SEO? And you like doing like different stuff on a daily basis, which I resonated with. Like, I don't like being like doing the same thing. And I also like building stuff, which I feel like I'm in a role right now where I'm pretty like hands-on with building the offers and building like our whole basically system that we have for the leads.
Totally. I agree. I think there's always something new. And for people who follow us, like there's always either a new valuable product, or there's a new system that we're offering that's going to bring a ton of value to our students and to everybody that we work with. So yeah, it's fun and it keeps things exciting. Like you know, I've said it a few times, but I would quit my job like every year before working for Ryan.
Really?
Yeah. Cause I would either max out my compensation plan, I'd get bored or something. And I was just like, I've reached my ceiling at this company, or I fired myself. Meaning like I just got so disengaged. So when I started wholesaling, I actually got fired from my company because I was just spending all my time trying to do real estate.
That was software sales, right?
Yeah, I was doing software sales for a company in San Diego, and yeah, so that was like one of the I was like one of the only jobs I've ever been fired for performance. But you know, I was just disengaged. So I get it. But yeah, so then when I come here working for Ryan, like you said, every day's different. Like I've had like 4 different job roles, like formal job roles. And then also like every day I'm a different, like today I was a salesperson. Now I'm a podcast host.
Yeah,
right? So it's fun. And now when it comes to digital marketing, you know, what's more important in your opinion? Is it the creative or the audience?
The creative. 100%. Yes. Cause you can have a winning creative with no target audience, no, like, I mean, if we're just talking about like running Facebook ads, you can have a winning creative with open targeting everybody, no specific person in mind, and that can still get you really good results. Where if you have a bad creative or even a subpar creative, you can do all the interest targeting you want, all the ideal avatar people that you would want to, and it's just not going to, it's still going to get outperformed by the higher performing creative with open targeting. So like targeting is just like sprinkles, I feel like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And are we using Facebook's like AI thing, like where they're like doing like targeting plus? I forget what they call it, but
that I know what you're talking about. Will they write the
Advantage
copy for
Plus,
you, or
yeah,
they're coming out with a bunch of
not
stuff.
writing the copy, but it's like the audience aspect. So it's like, I remember there's a little checkbox on the Facebook ads where you say, hey, like, do you want Facebook to show this ad to other people that it thinks are more likely to buy or whatever, right?
I don't check that box.
Got it.
Yeah. So a lot of people, like, although Facebook has a ton of data, there still is like no substitute for human testing and like human evaluation of like something I recently just did that a lot of people either don't do, or they would rather just let Facebook do it. Is you've seen the dynamic creative option on there? Yeah. So a lot of people just like to put like 6 creatives in there, the dynamic creative, and they're like, oh, Facebook will choose the best one.
What? Yeah, but for people who don't know, what is the dynamic creative?
Okay, so the dynamic creative is, it's an option on Facebook where you're basically able to upload multiple creatives at once, and according to Facebook's data and algorithm, they'll choose what creative is the best to put the money behind and to show.
And versus, why is that bad?
It's not bad. I necessarily don't like it, just because I would rather give every ad the same chance to succeed than let Facebook decide. And there is a time and place to let Facebook kind of take the reins because it does have all the data. But in my experience, like putting all the ads in their own ad set, own budget, targeting, the same people and giving it the same budget. So $100 is going to be spent on this ad, 100 on this ad, 100 in this ad, versus throwing it in something like a dynamic creative, putting it to $500, and then maybe it just
Facebook decides.
Exactly. Maybe it just spends $400 on one creative and then 100 on the other creative, and then the other 4 creatives don't even get tested. And then it's just like, you never know if they would have won or not.
Got it. So when we're launching a campaign, how many individual ads are we running? Let's say for when we launched WealthCon, how many individual ads did we start with, and how many ads are we running right now?
So we started with like 3 to 5. And that's kind of what spurred all the, I think we just launched like 12 last week, just testing, because that stat with the, testing so many more creatives is going to get you results. But I feel like it's really about like putting it out there, and then like out of the 12 ads we launched, we only got like 4 winners. But now we're going to take those 4 winners and look at it, evaluate them, be like, why did this do good? And make very small variations and similar videos after that and test those. That's the best way, in my opinion.
Okay. And with these, because we launched, you said 12 creatives, right? So was that 12 individual ads that Ryan filmed that were slightly different and different copy? Or was it like 5 videos plus, 5 other ad creatives and some different variations?
So the initial 5 were kind of the same, and that's why they didn't perform well, in my opinion. So the new 12 that we launched, they were completely different angles. I mean, we had Ryan blindfolded. We had him doing pull-ups. We had him outside by the Hummer, and kind of just all these different angles and pattern interrupts. Because I mean, these people are scrolling on social media, like looking for stuff to entertain them, not exactly looking to buy a WealthCon ticket. So we need something to stop their attention and grab their attention and hook them and keep them long enough. So it was just testing a bunch of different angles. And then as far as the copy goes, I like 3 to 4 in the beginning. And we actually tested a ad specific copy to like say the pull-up one. We had one saying, you know, how often do you work out your business? It's easy to work out your body. And that one didn't perform as well compared to like the generic one. So you just never know unless you test. And that's kind of, I feel like the job as a digital marketer, like just test everything, especially obviously if you have the budget, that helps. But still, I mean, just being curious and not like settling on the, oh, this got results. Let's just let it run. Like you always, because eventually it's going to burn out. Eventually it's going to stop performing. And then you're like, okay, back to square one.
Yep. So how long should I run a test for? So
a lot of people are kind of back and forth about this. For me personally, I think it's more about the money spent than the time goes by, because I can spend $500 on one ad in one day and get a ton of data, or I could spend $100 per day on the ad over 3 days and get, data. I think it's best, like the money amount speaks more than the time amount.
So to that question then, so how much money should I spend on a Facebook ad test before I decide to cut it?
It all depends on the goal. So if you're selling a $10,000 coaching program, you probably can spend a lot more than if you're selling a $50 product. So in my opinion, I usually go, if you're selling a $50 product and you want, let's just say you want to break even on it. So you want your lead cost or your purchase cost to be $50. If I'm testing it, I need to spend at least $100 initially to see if I can get a hit. So if I can't get a hit with my open targeting creative testing under $100, which is double my ideal price, then it's not even worth it to go try to niche down, because I know it's not, like, even if I go into interest targeting, maybe it'll get into $70 range, maybe it'll get into 60, but it's not going to get into the 50. So it's really based, I'd take your either cost per purchase, your cost per lead, your ideal cost per lead, and double that. And that's how much you should spend on the ad to test it.
Got it. And so, I hear a lot of the digital marketers say, as a general rule of thumb, like it shouldn't be more than like 10% of like your overall revenue. Have you heard that before or no?
What should?
So like your ad costs.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like if we make $1,000, 100 of it should be coming from the ad. Is that like a good general rule of thumb, or like what would be just a blanket good rule of thumb for how much your ad cost should be?
I mean, this is talking like organic and paid, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about paid in general, right?
Okay.
So like if I have a paid ad that's running, like how much as a general rule of thumb should I not exceed on my product? So again, if I have $1,000 product, like what's the most I should be spending on an ad?
I mean, I
know it's a tough question.
It is a tough question I could give you the long answer in the sense of like, how many leads do you need to generate for that $1,000 product to close a deal, right? And then how profitable do you want to be? Because if you can close a deal for $800 and you make the $200, is that good enough for you? It's kind of like personal preference, in my opinion. Like what does it take to run your business? Like, can you operate at 20% margin? Most people can't. So if it needs to be a 50% margin, that means you have $500 that you can spend to acquire that customer to make that $1,000 sale. So it's just, then it comes down to how many leads do I need to talk to close that $1,000 sale? Then you just reverse engineer it. I'm all about like reverse engineering, like I work backwards. So, the $1,000 sale, okay, $500 lead cost per purchase. And maybe I need to talk to 10 people to close a $1,000 sale. That means we need to generate $50 leads. So then if we're generating $50 leads, every 10 leads should lead to a $1,000 sale, and then we're good.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. And you mentioned something so you said like, most people can't operate at a 20% margin. I read a stat that most small businesses in America operate at like 5 to 8%.
I saw that too.
And you can't operate like that. And that's why you need Wealthy Business.
Shameless plug.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, man. And I just think that's crazy. The fact that most businesses are so close to failure. They're like one or two things away. And, that's why people need to understand digital marketing, because like that's like what opens up so many doors for people's businesses. And so like, where do you see the state of, Facebook ads going with all this like data protection and all that? Like, do you feel like it's still going to be a viable option in like 2 to 3 years?
I think it'll be viable. I think like all that TikTok, remember TikTok was supposed to be banned like a year ago, and it's still going. Honestly, I think that it just makes too much money. that it's not going to be shut down. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think there's too much attention on it. And that's all it is. Maybe in 10 years, there'll be another app that has all the eyeballs, but in my opinion, it's all just attention. You're just paying for the eyeballs. And then to touch back on what you were saying before with like the 5 to 8% margin, I kind of agree and disagree, because like, how much volume are we talking? Because if you're doing $100 million at 8% margin, it's better than doing 500K at 50% margin. Sure. Right.
Or like, again, it depends on the business, but I get that.
Yeah. No. And that's what that's why I feel like reverse engineering everything to like what you want is the best way to go. Cause like some people, like if we could spend $1 million a month on ads and do 20% like margin, like if we could go that to 10, 20, 30 million and hold that, like you're still making money. So it's just like, where does that cutoff point where it's like volume negates the profit margin?
For sure. And this is actually, I'm glad you brought it up, because this is a challenge that we encounter in our business all the time, right? It's like, as we grow and as we bring on more students, we need more coaches and we need more back-end fulfillment. And then so our profit margin decreases. And we're like, well, is it worth the headache to go do that? Or do we just stick to what we know and we do well, where we can just service higher paying clients? All right. So it's a balancing act for sure. Yeah. And that's something that like we literally wrestle with all the time. It's like, okay, do we bring on more salespeople upstairs that are all base salaried and, you know, add another $50,000 in salaries to just make a little bit more money? Or are we happy with a high margin business and we're just cranking? Yeah. Right. So it depends. And you know, we walk the line a lot. So it's an interesting thing to think about with just like profit margin and all that.
Yeah. I mean, back to kind of like to stem off that with scaling, I feel like, I mean, in your bio, you're like, we scaled this many company. What do you think is like, I don't know, what do you look at when you're like scaling a company? Like, let's just say a company's doing $1 million a year at a 50% margin. Like, what are the first stuff you look at when you're scaling?
I mean, it depends. Again, it kind of comes back to what you said. It's what's the goal, right? Because if you're doing $1 million a year at 50% margin and you're taking home like 500K, that's a nice business for one person.
It is.
Like, that's a great business. I would say, unless you really have these big ambitions of becoming like a very large business, or, I mean, you can incrementally scale, right? Like, and you could probably just make more calls, do a little bit more work, and you can get to $1 million, $2 million a year, right? And a net, meaning that's what you're taking home, right? Or if you're trying to like 10x, right? And this is one of my favorite books, is like 10x is easier than 2x. It takes a look at this, right? Where it's basically saying, hey, if you're going to 10x your business, meaning now we need to make $10 million in revenue, there's only like 1 to 2 options, as opposed to all the options you would have if you're just trying to double your revenue, right? Does that make sense?
What's an example?
So an example is, okay, if I want to double my revenue, right? I could just spend more on ads. I could just maybe close more deals, just grind, right? You can double your business just grinding. Most of you can, right? Even the salespeople upstairs, right? So if Edgar wanted to double his his production, he would just have to make more phone calls and maybe get incrementally better at sales, right? But if you're going to 10x your business, now you got to really think about, how am I going to do that? The example that we have is Home Run Offer, right? When we've done 100 house flips a year at Home Run Offer for like the last, I don't know, 5-6 years. I don't know, right? But how do we 10x that business? It's not staying in Las Vegas. It's now we're going nationwide and we're going to wholesale nationwide. That's a 10x model. And we're going to partner with our students to bring them deals, right? So now our students are getting value, and that's going to also come over here for Wealthy Investor. And we're going to get more Wealthy Investor sales. They're going to get more value, and we're going to partner with our students, and we're going to internally go nationwide. And we're just going to market using you to run Facebook ads nationwide. That's a 10x model.
Got you.
Right.
So it just makes you think bigger.
It makes you think, yeah, it's like, and again, exactly. It makes you think bigger because there's only one strategy. And then you cut out all the 80% of crap that's not going to actually get you there. Right. So, you know, it's getting rid of the things that aren't going to actually be part of the 10x model.
Got you.
Right.
That makes sense.
That's where we've decreased our budget in Las Vegas. Like Ryan has run the same TV commercial in Vegas for years before he was even big on social media. And so we cut that budget significantly to now spend money on the nationwide stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's our cost per lead was, a few $100s for a TV lead. And what's our cost per lead right now? For
40, 50 bucks, 40, 50
yeah, 40, 50 bucks.
Yeah.
So we can get more leads. Our revenue is less on these nationwide wholesales as it would be a flip here in Las Vegas. But if we can get 5 of them as opposed to 1 over here, and our headache's way less because we're not holding on to the money. We don't have to hold on to it. We can just wholesale it.
Yeah.
Why not just do that?
Yeah.
So that's an example of like how we thought like how to scale in our businesses, right? So it all comes back to like what the goal is, right?
Yeah.
And this happened with a company, and it actually, unfortunately, like it ended up not working out. But their model, when they were coming to partner with us, it wasn't super scalable. And then we thought of like, okay, how can we 10x this business, or how can we actually scale it, make it sellable, make it like $100 million company? And we thought up a plan, and we tried to execute on it. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And we parted ways as friends. But we wouldn't have joined the business with the business model that they had. That's why we had to think of something else.
Gotcha.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. 100%.
The other thing is now when we look at businesses to partner with, we have to look at businesses that would be successful without us. So they already have to be good businesses, meaning like they already have a good idea. They have product market fit, all that stuff. And by partnering with us and Ryan, we're just going to like take it to the moon. Right. And what we did earlier, and as a mistake, and what we kind of learned was we were looking at businesses that needed us to be successful. Does that make sense? Like they could not be successful on their own.
Yep.
So, and this is also kind of like, it's like the Shark Tank model, right? People like go on Shark Tank, and those guys only want to invest in businesses that like have a good business model already before,
because they know that it's going to blow up once they get their hands in it.
Yeah, those would be probably the two biggest lessons. And that's also like the thinking that we look at with, I know we make a lot of changes, but that's why even this low ticket thing is so valuable, because we're like, if we can get people in at a ton of value, right, we can have like just hundreds of thousands of dollars of monthly reoccurring revenue every month. Just, and that's not even the main thing. Right? Like we get them in for our coaching, and then they get all the value. We see them be super successful, and it's just better for everybody in that ecosystem. So that like the 10x thinking is kind of how we ended up with, the low ticket funnel and all that type of stuff as well.
And I love the model just because like, I think it was Hormozy who said that, but it's like a lot of businesses focus on acquiring customers versus retention. And like playing into that game of like, how can I get this customer that I acquired to continue to pay me month after month, year after year? Because it's easier to sell a customer who's already bought from you than to acquire a new one. But most people, like, I feel like most businesses aren't like that. And that's kind of like the people who are really crushing it have a subscription model, have something where it's keeping you there. You're paying for essentially kind of access in a way, whether that's the products or, calls you get or whatever it is, but just having that retention like on your customers.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing with information and coaching is what we've thought at least was there's just diminishing returns. Like once I teach you how to flip a house, you know how to flip a house, right? So
I don't need you anymore.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So how do we make it more enticing? So that's where we had like the community, WealthCon, all this other stuff. And so we're like, okay, like how else do we retain people? Up until recently, it was, well, let's roll out a new product that's going to be super valuable that they need. And that's kind of how all of this got started, right? We started in real estate. Ryan was blowing up on social media. People come out asking like, how do I get on social media? How do I grow? So we're like, all right, let's roll out Wealthy Creator, right? Because that is a good like side, like it's I forget what they call it, but it's like a product that they still need, and it's stacked on top of like what we already offer. Yes. Right. And we already had the infrastructure for it. So it was a no brainer. And then people were like, well, I need business help. So let's help out with Wealthy Business. Right. And it's also a lesson in listening to your customer. Yes. And I was gonna say, the customer isn't always right, but you can take what their feedback, especially like, I need this, I want this product. I will give you money for this product. Like, okay, like that's good. And can we fulfill on it? Do we know it? Yeah, let's do it. Right. So it's a lesson there. Go ahead.
Back to that. What do you think about that? Is the customer always right? Like, elaborate on that. Why?
No, I mean, like, so I'm going to butcher this Steve Jobs quote, but like, it's like, if I would have asked the customer what they wanted, they would have asked for bigger buttons on like their BlackBerry. Right. So if he's trying to think of like something that has no buttons and like is so revolutionary for the time, you can't only listen to the customer. Yeah. So that's the thinking behind, no, the customer isn't always right. In customer service, the customer is mostly right. Okay. Right. Like, so if you're if you're upset with me because I got your order wrong at McDonald's, you're right. And I will fix it because it's not a low thing. And then the same thing for like our clients, if for whatever reason something's not, they're not happy, like we're going to do our best to fulfill and do something for them.
So more so on like the selling and closing side, it's like, I mean, what about like even the sales calls that you've been on like today? Like, where's the customer? Like, they usually don't know, right?
No. Like the customers that they come in and, again, something that we coach on is like, you shouldn't be worried about rentals, Airbnb, or anything until you make $250,000 a year. Once you do that, then we can talk about rentals and that other stuff. And that's assuming that you're in like a market that's not super expensive. Like if you're in California, New York, Miami, $250,000 doesn't go very far. That's like, it's like 100,000 in other areas. Yeah. Right. But yeah, so you got to get your money up and then we can worry about rentals. Like you said, the people that come in, they're making $50K a year and trying to buy a rental. And so it's up to us to educate them and show them why that's not the best strategy for them. And then same thing. A lot of people come in, like, I love that they come into Wealthy Business because they're like, I need operational help. But I'm like, you have no sales. You have no business if you don't have any sales. Yeah. Right. So first you got to generate the sales before. And so that's why we kind of also restructured a little bit of what Wealthy Business is. It's like, we're going to help you with marketing, sales, then ops. Once you get the first two, then it makes sense to have an operational conversation. Right. So, no, I don't think the customer is always right on sales calls either. They can guide me. So sometimes like I'll ask like, hey, what's important to you? Like, what are you looking for? And why are you on the call with me? Like those are important questions to ask, but no, like you're not right.
Yeah. I feel like it comes back to like, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Like the guy or the example of like, oh, I need operation help. And like, no, you need this help. And like, you just don't know because you don't know.
Exactly. And when it comes to sales specifically, it's like, then it's up to you as a salesperson and also even as a marketer to like ask the right questions to make sure that you're guiding them down the path of like understanding that they're wrong. Yeah. The biggest thing that like the people upstairs make a mistake of is they tell them why they're wrong. So it's like, oh, you want to buy rentals? Actually, you shouldn't do that. You should wholesale. Instead of like, okay, well, like, how much money do you make? Do you know that in your market, it costs $500,000 to buy a house? Okay. So, and understand you have to put usually between 10 to 20% down. So let's say in a normal scenario, like, let's say it's 10% just to be generous. Like it would be $40,000 or $500, like depending on, where you're at. If it's 10%, 500. Yeah. So it'd be 50,000. Do you have $50,000 to invest right now? No? Okay. So we need to do this, right? So like going through that whole progression, and this is just good sales tips in general, right? Yeah. And then when you're marketing, it's like, hey, like you got to show them that they have a gap to be filled.
100%. No, I think even when I was making sales calls, it was like, I'm not a follow the script word for word type of guy. I know some people are. I like to take the outline of it, but mine was like, I'm big on like framing and like, I'm super new to it. I just learned about it, but like, I'd always try to be intentional about framing, like where you're at, where you're trying to go, what you're telling me you're trying to go. And it's like, okay, this is going to get you there, and kind of building, like you said, bridging that gap of like, this is what it's going to take to get you there. Yeah.
To simplify sales, literally, this is the only thing you need to do. Make the customer feel comfortable enough to share why they're here and where they're at today. Understand where that customer wants to go, and then articulate why your product or service gets them to where they're at, to where they want to go.
Literally.
Yep. If you do that, you'll be rich. That's it.
That's it. Game over. Podcast over. That's it. Just do that, guys.
Yeah. And again, it's easier said than done because there's a lot of like psychology that goes into sales and understand, like, again, making somebody feel comfortable enough to like share That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of skill. And then also, you know, people just get a little weird once they have to take their credit card out or make the wire. So like making them feel comfortable and being able to sit in the uncomfort, I think is something that's like super valuable in general. But if you're good at it, you'll make a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, even you doing that example there too, it's like your tone got softer. You got a little friendlier. Like how much do you think like tone plays into all that?
It's everything.
Yeah.
I think, and this is another reason why some of the guys upstairs, like no shade to them, they have trouble because they hear me say something and then they say the same thing, but they say it in the wrong tone.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? And so
like tone, a pushy tone or sign of.
Yeah. Or they're just like direct or they're monotone or whatever it is. You know, if you know, the way I sound when I begin the call is different than the way I sound at the end of the call. Or if I'm cold calling, it's a different tone of voice than if I'm talking to somebody trying to do like $1 million deal or, you know, whatever it is. So your tone is the most important thing in all of sales for sure. If you work on your tonality, you'll win because again, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Again, the stat ranges, but you know, it's like 80 to 90% of communication is nonverbal. The majority of it is your tone of voice. And that's why like I got my start doing I was walking up and down the aisles at the Home Depot.
Okay.
Selling their kitchen and bathroom remodelers. So I would walk up. I was like 18 years old, dressed up.
The apron?
No. I was in like a button down, a tie, dress shoes.
Oh, wow.
And I was in dress shoes walking on my feet for 8 hours a day. Like for, I forget how long I was there, maybe like 8-9 months till I realized this is crazy. I was probably like, and I was like one of the best people there and I was only making like $3-4 grand. So like I was, but anyway, I cut my teeth doing it because I like figured out, I was like, hey, do you happen to be a homeowner? Then I would go through this little script. I think everybody needs some sort of like door-to-door / like high volume face-to-face experience. Because if you do that, you'll be successful the rest of the time. And then phone sales is super important too, because like that's where, coming back to tonality, that's where you learn because like if that's your only weapon is literally your tone of voice.
Yeah. Cause they can't see your eyes. They can't see your body language. They can't see any of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of the pivot off there with like marketing and landing pages and all that, you don't have tone. So like, I mean, I'll say my take on it after, but like, what do you think is like, how do you sell on a landing page or an ad when they can't hear your tone? Like what's your leverage point? I think that's
why the VSL has been so valuable, like, right? Because now you can just put a video on and then Ryan or whoever your person is can hop on and talk and share and say like, hey, this is everything. Like, this is what it is. This is how it works. And I would love to talk to you. Right. I think that's important. I think obviously copy is super important. But in my opinion, I don't think the landing page matters very much. I think the ad matters. Because if you look at our landing pages, they're super simple. The majority of them, except for this, it's funny. The $27 product has the most copy.
I know.
out of all the things that we sell, the lowest ticket thing has the most effort in terms of like landing page gets put into it. So to me, I personally think it's the ad, and if you can get the ad down, then the landing page doesn't matter as much, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
But anyway, what would your opinion be?
I agree completely with that. I think, I mean, today's day and age, obviously the VSL, but obviously video ads, like, you can, obviously they can see your body language, they can see your tonality, everything. And I think, when they see the ad, by the end of the ad, they should be ready to put in their information regardless of what the landing page looks like, in my opinion. If you're presenting the offer in the ad and you're being clear and, about what they're getting and, what it is, the offer is, I think that they're just going to click on the learn more button, whatever pulls up, whether it's a super long page, whether it's a short page or just like an opt-in page. I think they should be ready to opt in. And it's funny that you say the longest one we have, it wasn't actually done by our internal team. And that's why I want to split test that, because who knows, like a lot of people maybe they'll get lost in the sauce in the sense of like, they just keep scrolling and they're just like, I was going to do it, or like, and then they're like, this is too much information maybe, or they're like, somebody calls them and like, I don't know, the friction. I feel like words can kind of add more friction to it.
I would agree. And I think maybe it's just because like it's the salesperson in me. Yeah, I would rather just get their info and talk to them, right?
Yeah.
And decrease the amount of time that it takes. And I think, you know, the person who wrote that is very, very much a digital marketer.
Yeah.
Hasn't had a sales team. So like, I get why they want to like put as much copy and as much stuff on there to try to sell. But just from what I've seen, and just like my personal preference is, yeah, like minimal copy, make them fill out their info in order to see anything to even, because like that's what we do with a lot of our pages. It's like, you got to opt in just to see the VSL. And that way, at least like I, as a salesperson, get a chance to talk to them and try to close them, or at least figure out where they're at. And you get more leads in your system. So
yeah, it's interesting too, because the ads we tested for the low ticket funnel, we had a few ads like very in-depth explaining, you know, this is what wholesaling is, this is what you're going to get. And then we had other ads just saying, this is what you're going to get. And guess which one performed well?
The second one.
Yeah, correct.
Interesting. All
they care about is what they don't want, the fluff. They don't want like, and that I feel like that's the same way on like a landing page. They don't want to read all this fluff. They just want to know what they're going to get. And if they can like connect the dots in their mind, oh, this, I give my money here, I'm going to get this, like, let's do it. Like it doesn't, I feel like all this extra stuff, and we're going to find out, we're going to test it. But yeah, no, I'm on the same wavelength as you. Like just sell, like just get their information.
Is there an optimal length of video you've seen for these paid ads?
I'd say 3 to 5. I mean, yeah, 3 to 5.
3 to 5. So I'm talking. So that's on the landing page.
Yeah,
correct.
Yes.
So now on the actual ad itself,
on the ad.
Facebook, like, should I keep it under 30 seconds, under a minute? Does it not matter?
I think under a minute, just because I mean, and to even get even more granular, the first 3 seconds are everything. The first 3. I mean, I've seen countless stories of people changing the first 3 seconds of a piece of content with the same body, getting 15 times the results.
For sure.
So it's all about the first 3 seconds. And then I'd say you probably got like 20, 30 seconds after that till their mind starts to wander. And that's if you can keep them engaged that long. That's if your hook is good enough. But you definitely don't want to go over a minute, in my opinion, just because it's just like, and at the end of the day, it's like, they don't want a story. They probably want a little bit of a piece, and then it's like, what am I going to get? Because everybody, I mean, humans are like, we're hardwired selfish, right? It's like, especially if we're scrolling on our phone through social media and we're clicking on something random, it's like, what's in it for me? So the faster that they can get that relayed to them and understand that, I think like that's going to be the thing that like gets them to put in their information. So yeah, definitely like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, like you're golden.
So, and you mentioned something that I think is super important that a lot of people miss. It's like, a lot of people just talk about them on their ads, and you got to understand, like, the person has to understand like what's in it for me very early on. I think a lot of people are like, hey, I do this. This is what I do. Like, click on my ad, as opposed to
like, I made this much money last month. Yeah. Click on my ad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how can people think about ads and like create ads that are from the customer's perspective?
I mean, I think that's just getting in their mindset and kind of like, I wouldn't say pushing your ego aside, but it's kind of pushing like everything you know, because you need to get in their mindset, as in they don't know anything. They haven't done what you've done. So like and it comes back to like the sales process. It's like, how are you going to educate this person on getting to point B when they're at point A, when like they know nothing? So it's like, you got to be like very strategic, in my opinion, of like what information you want to give without overwhelming them. Because if you give like too much information, it's going to turn people off. They're not going to want to click on it. But if you can give them bite-sized like pieces that, oh, this makes sense to me, let me go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. I think it's just like getting in that mindset of their potential customer, and like, what would you want to hear? What would you tell yourself if you knew nothing about what you're trying to sell? And just digging into that.
Yeah, I love that. So, fun fact, and you know this, but I ran our ads for about a month. Why were they bad?
I mean, I didn't look.
I take no offense, because all I did was Frankenstein things from our other ad buyers and just put it together. And I was like, we'll see if it works. So I don't care.
I could tell.
Yeah.
But I mean, that has a lot to do with it. You don't have to watch them like a hawk, but you do have to be on top of them. It's not like a set and forget type of thing, especially when we're spending this type of money.
Totally.
Because if you don't look at it for a day, that's like what, 10 grand gone. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of things can change. But I think too, it's like KPIs. Like I don't know what KPIs you were paying attention to. Maybe you were looking at the wrong stuff. And like, there's so much information to look on there.
Hey, well, they were profitable. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So I don't think I ran our VS. I don't remember if I ran their VSL. I think I did for a little bit, but I just ran the challenge and I was like, okay, we made money.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
No, I think I mean, I'm still learning. So, I mean, I think it's just,
I take no, I'm doing this as like a value thing. Like, so like, why were they bad? So people can not make those mistakes.
I think you were leaving it all too much up to Facebook, doing all those Advantage Plus, although it's suggested and although it's a new feature, it doesn't mean it's always the best path and the best thing to do. I think it's like I said, there's no substitution for like human evaluation. So being able to granularly like segment your ads and your targeting, you weren't doing that because then you're just looking at like kind of like a pool of data that you don't even understand where the points connect. And it's just like, okay, cool. We're profitable, but like, what was the winning ad? What was the winning copy? What was the winning audience? You're like, you don't know. What was the winning placement? Like, you don't know.
Got it.
Yeah.
So how many different variations do we, and I think I kind of asked this, but I want to get like a number. So just say for like WealthCon right now, how many different ads do we have running at this moment?
At this exact moment, probably about 8.
Okay. Got it. And what's a good amount for somebody who's like launching? Like how many ads should they have to test?
Honestly, at the minimum, 5 in my opinion. And people are going to say that's a lot, but I think creatives are the number one thing. And then up to 10. And this is a mix of like videos and picture ads. And don't make a video and then do a slight variation of it. Like if you're creative testing, that's not going to work. You would pick an angle, pick a different setting, pick a different prop, like do something very different because you never know what's going to catch on. And then once you run those through the test, like I said, 3 to 5, up to 10, and see which one gets the most traction, then makes small variations to that. Because like, you never know, just putting a headline on an already performing ad might make it perform that much better. Or like just small little things like that.
So so we have 5 ads. How many audiences are we running with those 5 ads?
Okay. So when I like creative testing the ads, I do completely no interest. I spend the same amount of money on each of the ads to give them the optimal chance to perform. And once, let's just say it passes the test and we're moving it into the second phase, which is the interest. I do interest and lookalikes. So I usually do anywhere from 10 to 15. So I'm taking that singular ad, rolling it out into a campaign, having 10 to 15 different ad sets with 1 ad each. And each ad set has a singular target, whether that's a lookalike audience or an interest. Got it. And that's it. And you're kind of just throwing a bunch of fishing poles out there and kind of seeing where the bites are.
Got it. Okay. So just to reiterate, so first, no audience targeting at all. All you're doing is just throwing out 5 ads into the world and seeing what performs. Then you get 1 winner. Do you get like take the 2 and then put it in, or just the 1 winner?
Whatever one gets you results. Okay. So I'll give you an example. So I have a cost per lead in mind for the WealthCon ads, and I'll choose a price and I'll run these open to the United States without any interest targeting. And if I can generate leads at a certain price while spending a certain amount, then it's a winner. If it doesn't hit that threshold, then I kill it. Got it. Okay, so it's just pretty much having
as long as they're within the threshold.
Yes.
So even like in the rare case that all 5, right, hit the threshold, we would run all 5.
I'd run all 5. Okay. 100%.
And then, so they make it through that first test. Then we move into audience targeting. And you're saying you got about how many?
10 to 15.
10 to 15 different audiences that were running with those same ads. And then after that, what happens?
So to back up, I throw those in. That's called an ABO, which is ad budget optimization, where the ads are optimizing on the ad set level. So the next to actually go to scale, you'd want to, let's just say out of the 10 to 15, again, everything's not going to work. You're going to have low performers and high performers. So maybe out of the 10 to 15 interests, we have 8 that work. So I'm going to kill the other 7. I'm going to take these 8. I'm going to put in a CBO, which is a campaign budget optimization campaign, where basically this is where I give Facebook the reins, where it's like, this is my winning creative because I tested it by itself. This is my winning audiences because I tested it by itself. Now I'm like, I'm going to put it in a campaign. Here's my winning creative. Here's my winning audiences. Go nuts, Facebook. You go ahead and choose what audience is going to be best for me, and you crank up the budget on that. And usually those are like your highest performers.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what other tips and tricks would you give to somebody who's like trying to start Facebook ads? Besides hire us, I'd say think out of the box with your ads. I just saw a Russell Brunson, you know him. He has a ClickFunnels ad where it's kind of like an ASMR one. He has like a mic right up to his face and he's like crumpling paper and he's like, you need to come to ClickFunnels Live. And like, it's just goofy stuff like that. I've seen him light stuff on fire and just like, cause you never know. And at the end of the day, social media is about attention. And it's like, yes, you have an offer at the end, but we can get to the offer after you get their attention. So it's like, instead of sitting there and like, you know, let's just say if you're a sales coach, you know, hey, I'm a sales coach. I've closed this much in sales. Like, you know, hire me to coach you. Do like maybe like a role play scenario where it looks like an organic piece of content and it doesn't look like an ad. I'd say that's probably the biggest tip. Is like, what is people gonna watch and get their attention? Like, even if it wasn't an ad. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And then there was another ad that I saw recently. I was for like another coaching offer, but he goes, and then starts speaking really, really fast. Like just goes through his
Clever Investor?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a good ad. Like,
it's not bad.
Yeah.
And it's been running.
Yeah. And it's a good pattern interrupts. And so I agree, right? I know Ryan has like a putting one that it was upstairs.
Yeah.
I saw that one and I was like, oh, that's a good ad.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, anything that doesn't seem like it's an ad, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah. Keep it as like organic as you can. Yeah, absolutely. What you would normally see on just a feed if you weren't going to run it.
What's your take on TikTok ads? Well, I know we're not running them, but like, should we?
I think we should. 100%. It's funny too, because Wojo mentioned that like, that's what we're going to do, in my opinion, or what we should do. Like these winning creatives from the low ticket funnels, we'll take them over to different ad platforms. So if you have a creative that's winning on Facebook, odds are more than likely it's going to win on TikTok. And at the end of the day, it's just like TikTok has less data. So it might not be as like granular, but it's attention. They have attention. They have eyeballs. So you can definitely like win there and get like similar, if not better results, because their CPMs, which is cost per 1,000 impressions, might be lower.
Are we looking at TikTok Shop to throw the $27 and the low ticket stuff?
Dude, honestly, I know we should. Dude, TikTok Shop is new and crazy and like
it seems like it's crushing. I'm seeing people like make good money.
I know,
and I think it's something that we should at least test and just,
I think
throw
so
the products on there.
Yeah,
and make some videos. So
yeah, I mean that's also too like why I like working here is like we're always like, oh, this new thing, like even to your point of like how you just turn on that thing on Facebook ads because it's new, right? So you want to test always, and like you, Ryan, Brian, like you guys are always like, you're not shy to test new things, which I like being, you know, in that type of like environment. Because like, I feel like a lot of people are just, no, this has worked for us before. Let's just do it this one way versus like, oh, let's try to throw it on TikTok Shop. Like, you know, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that just comes from like, just being a digital marketer as well. Just cause like, we're like, dude, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. I think we could probably lean back a little bit on like, and actually, no, I'll rephrase. We just need to treat them as tests and not pivots. So that's the big thing with business in general, right? Like a pivot takes the whole business in a brand new direction.
Like a new CRM.
Yeah. We've had 8. But yeah, like understanding, hey, let's maybe have a few people test this out. Or let's have a true, like what you do with your ads. If it doesn't hit this benchmark in this amount of time, then we don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of like, let's test and like, let's put everybody on it. And then we have to pivot back. Right. Cause that happens too. Usually, I mean, I would call like, it's like a corkscrew, right? So we're doing this a lot, where, you know, we'll test a new idea. We kind of go back in there, but we're still moving forward overall. But I think we'd move in a lot faster if we tested
on like a smaller scale.
On a smaller scale before making. So that's a big lesson that I think we're trying to implement and learn.
Yeah. I mean, I like kind of draw the correlation with that to like Facebook ads. And like my new strategy is like, the results are slower because there is a testing phase, but your losers are smaller and your winners are much bigger. So it's just like, are you willing to go through that little testing phase that maybe you break even, maybe you lose some money because they're losers, but good thing you didn't pivot the entire business or put all your budget towards that.
Exactly.
Before you like actually get some proof of concept.
So what's the minimum budget somebody should have before starting Facebook ads?
It's a good question. I mean, are we just talking in like the coaching space and the e-commerce space, or
yeah? Let's just say like in the coaching / kind of like digital marketing space.
Honestly, if you are a coach and let's just say you don't like the minimum $100 a day, I would do something like we're doing now with a low ticket funnel. And to even elaborate more on that, it's like look at your products and services and look at what takes you the least amount of time that provides your ideal client the most amount of value and give that away for free.
Got it.
Or maybe give it away for $10.
Yeah,
exactly. And then run $50, $75 a day. At that point, I mean, if you're getting $10, $15 purchases, you're generating 5 leads a day, 6 leads a day. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
So something that we also coach on and recommend is like, you got to make sure that you have a budget for at least 3 months to commit to whatever marketing channel that you do. So seems like, if we're doing $100 a day, roughly, you have $3,000. Like, so basically you need like $9,000 roughly, like to feel comfortable.
But but that's assuming that you're not converting, right? That's assuming that you're just burning money.
Yep. Yeah. But again, you still got to commit to it because like there will be like, I'm sure the first 2 weeks, you're probably not, I mean, actually you hopefully are making money. Right?
We made sales the first day we launched the low ticket.
Yeah. And I think we're lucky in that we have a great brand already.
Yeah.
Right. So like, and we have hundreds of thousands of followers.
That's true.
So
that's a good point.
That's the thing with somebody starting brand new, you're probably the first like week or two is gonna be a lot of testing, especially if you don't know digital marketing.
Yeah. Right. 100%. I think then it comes back to your offer. And that's why it's like, what is most valuable to your client? And again, takes you the least amount of time since you're going to be basically giving away for free at this low ticket cost.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like dialing in on that.
Got it. Okay. That's good.
So, wait. Well, I got one more thing. We were talking about like sales in the community, and like, I just have a question for you. Like, were you always like a networking guy? Like I'm
not a networking guy. Was that the end of your question? And then I'll answer it.
Well, yeah. As far as like, were you in a bunch of masterminds? Were you in like communities? And then like, what kind of value do you think is actually like there?
What kind of value is there for what?
Just like being a part of communities and around like-minded individuals. If you weren't like part of that prior.
I mean, I think, and Ryan talks about this too a little bit, right? Like you got to be in the right rooms in order for the opportunities to open up. So for me, before investing in Wealthy Investor, like I had never been part of any like communities or anything like that. Just because I didn't see the value or see the need. I bought a very early version of Cardone U back when I was like really just trying to learn sales. But I mean, it's the same thing that happened like that with this low ticket funnel. I bought like 2 of his books. I bought I think I bought his like daily planner. And then I ended up like joining Cardone U at like a couple $100 a month or something. I don't remember like what the cost was, right? And so if I'm understanding your question correctly, like I see the value now. At the time, I also didn't really know that it existed. I always heard like, yo, your network is your net worth and all that crap. But I didn't know that like these masterminds were around. It was only once I found Ryan on TikTok that I was like, okay, like I want to learn how to do this. And I wasn't even investing for the networking aspect. I was just investing for the skill. I stayed for the networking because like I was now doing deals with other students. I was understanding, like just making relationships. And I think that if you're lower level, and I shouldn't say lower level, if you're entry level and you're like just trying to figure things out, the coaching and the skill set's more important in the beginning. Then once you're higher level, you understand that the network is the most important thing. You already got the skills, right? So being able to like articulate that you have the skills to the right people, that's the important part.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, for sure.
And does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it did. I mean, it stemmed from mainly like when we were talking about like sometimes you need to tell the customer what they want versus them always knowing. And kind of makes me think of like, I mean, just your personal trainer. Isn't it kind of funny how like, obviously you're paying this guy money, but like, I'm sure even if he was just a buddy and you were going to work out with him, like you would feel more obligated and accountable to show up to that workout than if you were just going by yourself.
Of course.
And it's so weird that like humans are like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the team aspect too, right? Like when you have a team, you don't want to let the person down to the left or the right of you, right? Like, so same thing, like when you've announced to the world that this is what you're going to do, you got to go do it. Right. And if I told, like you said, like if I told you, hey, Aaron, like I'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. for our workout, I got to show up. Otherwise, like there's more of a desire to show up than if it was just me going at 6 a.m.
Which is so weird. Yeah. And that's something you said on stage, right? People work harder for other people's businesses than they do for themselves. Yep. And it's kind of like a similar thing.
Well, yeah, it's the saddest thing ever, right? Like, and that's actually the best part about accountability and getting coaching is because, you know, you have somebody who's like going to be on your back, like asking you questions, right? Like he's messaged me like 3 times today, like, hey, did you update your MyFitnessPal? like, hey, did you update your meals? Like all that stuff. So that way, like, I don't want to let him down because a lot of people are willing to let themselves down, which is sad. Yeah. And it's tough. And that's why, you know, always being around the right people. And again, I think the best thing that you can do is just announce your goals to the world. Because then all of a sudden now you're accountable to those things. Like if you just have your own internal goals and you don't like tell people that's what you're trying to do, then the chances of you achieving them go down pretty significantly. Yeah.
But why do you think that like you'll look at those texts and you'll be like, oh man, I need to go update this. Obviously you're paying him, but like other people will look at that like, dude, get off my back. Like, you know, like it's kind of like a negative thing. Like accountability is a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope, but like those people don't have the right mindset.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want to grow. I want to get better. And so this is a quote my football coach said, like when I was in high school. He's like, you could, and excuse my language, but like, are you a thoroughbred or are you a jackass? And what that meant was both a thoroughbred and a donkey or a jackass get whipped. A thoroughbred runs faster. A jackass just sits there and sulks, basically. And that has stuck with me forever, right? Yeah. And then it's the same thing with like diamonds under pressure and all that crap, right? But it's the same idea where it's like, yeah, you could either take this as me coming down on you and being mean to you, or this person texting me and not holding, like why are they on my back so much?
Yeah.
Or it's like they're on my back because they want me to be better and they want me to improve. Right. So if somebody's mad that they're on your back, and also it's the same, it's unfortunate. It's fortunately the same thing that we do sometimes with the sales team. Where it's like, you guys, like you didn't achieve the result. And so therefore we're going to, you know, course correct. So
no, I think you hit it on the head with like the mindset. It's just really like the perspective of like, he's trying to help me or she's trying to help me get better. They're actually pushing you to where you want to go. And it's just like, you would be the person holding yourself back at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like why would, if I'm, and I understand I know I'm paying the guy, so obviously he better be on me. That's, right. But yeah, and that's where I think if it's delivered from a place of like love and encouragement, obviously like if someone's just being rude and you know, just, you know, trying to put you down, then that's different.
For sure.
But, you know, if they're also, the second part of it too, right, is, you know, if someone's just yelling at you and not giving you constructive criticism as well, then it doesn't work, right? Like you gotta, and you also got to change up your delivery every now and then too, right? Yeah. But as long as you're giving them, like if he was just on me about something and he wasn't also providing me with like the tools to like do it or get better, then it doesn't make sense.
True.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing too, man. But this I think was super valuable. Like you gave a lot of good nuggets. So
I hope so.
Any last words?
If you need somebody to run our ads, hit Wealthy Business up.
There we go. And all right. Thanks again, guys. Peace.